Hello and welcome to Odds Premier League match day 37. Only 2 weeks left of football in England. We still don't have a champion, and this is, of course, a crucial week. We have Man City playing away against Fulham and Tottenham, Arsenal playing at Old Trafford. Tom Rennie, how do you see this title race? Very tight, I guess. Everyone in England supports Arsenal to win the title, with the exception of Tottenham fans.
Well, I admire that you think there's still a title race. That's good. I mean, keep it interesting for another few days. That's fine. I mean, look, I think Man City are already champions. I can't see them dropping a single point. However, it will be good for the league in general if Arsenal win, though I'm not sure I can bring myself to hope they win the league. There you are. That's my complicated view.
3.25 Arsenal to win the Premier League. I'm always hopeful until the end, Tom. This is why some magic happens sometimes in football pitches in the stoppage time, perhaps also with Arsenal. Who knows?
I knew you'd bring that up. I knew you were going to bring this up. This is the Premier League show, and you still crowbarred in Real Madrid in the first, 2 minutes.
Of course, Joselu played us at Stoke City, so we have to talk about the Potters. Well, guys, remember, leave your comments, press the like, subscribe, and now let's talk about English football. Let's talk about the Premier League. Well, let's talk about Man City. First game, Craven Cottage, Fulham, Man City. I guess it will be full of Arsenal fans trying to back Fulham, to support Fulham and see if they are able to get a draw. For instance, the last 2 games played by Fulham were draws. But I was also astonished about the head-to-head between these 2 teams. The last 10 meetings, all 10 wins for Man City, so I guess you have to be very optimistic if you think Man City could drop points here.
Yeah, look, I mean, as established, I don't think Man City are going to drop a single point between now and the end of the season. Briefly on Fulham, I feel like I got on the Fulham train late, and I'm a bit annoyed by it, considering how good they were at home for long stretches of this season. The home form has gone for Fulham. It's now 3 games without a win at home from the moment I started betting on it. So I'm not going to go with that this week, even though it would have helped you out for 9 games this season. They're a decent team. They'll have a decent mid-table finish, and the summer's going to be interesting for them. But, they put up a bit of a fist of it against Liverpool and lost in the end. They seem like a team that are desperate to get on holiday, done their job for this year. I can't see them doing anything. Maybe scoring a goal. I think they've got a decent goal-scoring record at home this season. Pretty decent run of scoring goals against good teams too, including one against Liverpool not too long ago. 31 goals in 18 home games is a near 1.7 average. That's not too bad. So I do fancy Fulham for a goal, but the issue is Manchester City for them. The issue is the fact they're a team in terrific form. It hasn't been the best away season for them. They've still got 12 victories, equal best in the league. 39 goals scored is over 2 goals per game away from home. It's more than 2 in the last 3 away games. The only money to be made here is prop bets. That would be City have over 15 shots, pick a goal scorer, obviously Haaland. But for me, I'm looking at the over market, over 3.5 goals in the match. That brings you in at 3-1, 4-1. That's what I'm expecting here. That brings you in at 2.1. If you go over 4.5, brings you in 3.25. That's not too bad. If you think Fulham will score, do you think City can score 4? I do. And so I'll take that at over 4.5. Safe is 3.5. Over 4.5, you make some money. So you take the risk.
Well, the odds are wrong. Fulham to win is 11, not 37. And the draw pays around 7. Still, of course, really high odds because everyone backs Man City. Marco is going for Fulham +2. Very risky, even if they put the great goal of China in front of the goal. Even if they park the bus, it's going to be very difficult to stop this Man City to score plenty of goals. They have Tottenham. We will talk about the game later. And West Ham to finish the season. Remember, Man City. Well, next game, nothing to play for here. Bournemouth, Brentford. Great season for Bournemouth. great first season for Andoni Iraola on the bench. Lost 3-0 to Arsenal. Brentford absolutely safe. Their season was not the best, but still, if you are safe 2-3 weeks before the season ends for a team like Brentford, I think the goal is achieved. It's only one defeat in the last 7 games, ending well the season for Brentford.
Yeah, I mean, they're battling for points, right? That's the way they've got about the last 10 games, and they've achieved their objective, as you've mentioned, as staying in the Premier League. You know, Bournemouth, if this season went on for another 6 to 8 weeks, if it was a 45, 48 game season, there'd probably be a decent tip for the top 6, the way they've played. I don't expect it to last forever. In the end, I do think the quality of the playing staff comes to the fore in the Premier League. The wage bill and the quality of players, if you look at the way the league table has gone, it's broadly the size of your wage bill. A couple of outliers there in Man United being too low and maybe Tottenham being too high. But beyond that, it looks about right. The big payers come top, the lowest payers come bottom. And Brentford have one of the lowest wage bills in the country, as do Bournemouth. So I think it's time to celebrate, and I think it's time to start planning for next summer. In terms of Bournemouth, obviously Dominic Solanke is a good prop bet here. Solanke scores and Bournemouth win. It's been a regular win for us this season. I would certainly look at that. I'd also look at Bournemouth's really decent defensive record in recent times. Across the entire season, not great, but at home, 26 goals conceded in 18 games, 1.5 goals a game. A lot of that coming in the first half of the season. Clean sheet against Crystal Palace, clean sheet against Brighton, just the one conceded against Everton in victory there, and a couple of goals against Man United that one was a penalty, one was a fluke. Beyond that, United never really got through on them. So if you're looking at something here, you've also got to look at Brentford's inability to score a goal, as we saw and correctly predicted last week in that home 0-0 guff match at the G-Tech. Look at Bournemouth to win here, but look at Bournemouth to win without conceding a goal. Defensively sound. Brentford, they're not scoring goals. Ivan Toney is going through a massive barren spell as he tries to get out of the club. Brentford to win to 0, 4.5. I was really, really surprised about that. That's a big, big bet, considering the pattern and the form of the two teams. It's always a risk, but I'll be taking that. And as ever, with these sorts of games, look for a group bet, combine a few bets. 1-0, 2-0, 2-1 together brings you at 4.
Well, ergo caustic, great decision from Bournemouth not to sack Iraola when they had this bad spell. Good call, indeed.
Yeah.
Well, nothing to play for in this Bournemouth-Brentford, nothing to play for in the Everton-Sheffield United. Everton, they are absolutely safe thanks to their home form. They won the last 3 games in their stadium. Sheffield United already relegated, and they reached the 100 goals conceded record that we were mentioning this season, Tom.
I knew they could do it. I always had faith in Sheffield United to be the worst team maybe ever in Premier League history. And defensively, they are. It's amazing they got more points than that Derby team of all those years ago. This is the worst team I've ever seen in the Premier League in my 10 years working in the competition. They're deservedly relegated, and I hope they don't come back for a while. Look, in terms of Everton, what do you bet on here? Don't touch Sheffield United, obviously. Waste of your time and mine. You've got to look at the Everton patterns. Yes, they are safe, but there's a good feeling about Everton, which has not been for some time. And Sean Dyche and his lovely new tracksuit that his mum's not happy with are going to be keen to keep that going to the end of this season. 4 home wins in a row is really, really good. It's the best home form in the league right now, along with Chelsea, across the past 4 games. That tells you something. And look at the pattern of the wins. They win without conceding. And they win without scoring many goals. 1-0 against Brentford, 2-0 against Liverpool, 2-0 against Forest, 1-0 against Burnley. I'm not going to upset that pattern here. If you're going to bet on this game, you follow that pattern, you follow the way it goes. Everton win an under 3.5 goals in the match, covers all those bases at 2.5. Everton under 3.5 is slightly more risky at 2.5. Under 2.5 is 4.5. 7 corners in the match I quite like as well. They always get on average 7 or above. I'd certainly look at that. And Everton win to 0, which the recent pattern suggests is, I think, a pretty confident bet I've got here. So the unders and the clean sheet and the corners. It's Everton. What was I going to bet on?
Well, in the next game, we have something to play for. This is Newcastle-Brighton. This is a good football game. Newcastle 6th. Even they have a possibility to finish 5th. The season is going to be difficult, but they have to defend this 6th spot because Chelsea, they are only 2 points behind, and they are in a very good run to keep winning and winning. 4-1 against Burnley, even if they were suffering in the first minutes of the game. 4 wins in the last 5. So I guess, Tom, we should back them playing at home. And Brighton, they've been on holidays for a while.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely right. I think that Newcastle are a great example. Anyone who watches a league, a sports league, what matters is the final 10 games. The entire season, the 28, 30 game bit at the start is setting a platform for what happens in April and May. And some teams haven't set a good platform and they fade away, like Brighton, like Wolverhampton Wanderers, 1 or 2 others, or Newcastle, who in those dark days of not having fit players, 11 people out, couldn't make a signing in January, all of that, they kept picking up a little point here, a little point there, kept chugging along in 10th. No one really noticed them. And then bam, last 10, hit form. And it changes everything. It's happened to Bournemouth and Chelsea as well. It's all about the final 10. Newcastle set themselves up brilliantly for that platform. I think the win over West Ham was a real turning point in their season a few weeks ago. And they've never looked back since their victory over West Ham, which is a game they probably should have lost. Thrashed Sheffield United, thrashed Tottenham, beat West Ham for 4, thrashed Wolverhampton Wanderers. The only disappointment will be the 1-1 draw against Everton. Everton played incredibly well to get something from that game in that recent run of home form. So really impressed by Newcastle. They are going to be in European football next season. Nobody saw that coming. I'd be astounded if they lost to Man United in midweek as well. And that means they'll finish above Man United, which would be an incredible achievement considering the Saudi money really isn't flowing in yet. It's not gone to Man City levels as yet. I'd be worried if I was Man United on that score. In terms of Brighton, look, I think the fact the manager is so desperate to go has depressed everybody. I think the manner of their defeat against Roma depressed everybody. I think the fact they've had no Solly March and Kara Mitoma and Evan Ferguson, and I think Pervis Estupiñán could be missing for this one. James Milner has been missing all season. They're a club that have lost a bit of momentum and identity, and I think this summer's going to be interesting. It doesn't seem like anybody wants De Zerbi. Great news for Brighton, but they've also got to attract players to Brighton. I'm not sure in a market where West Ham have got a new manager, Wolverhampton Wanderers are going to be able to invest for the first time in a long time. Crystal Palace will have maybe the Eze or Elise money to invest. I'm not sure how attractive Brighton are. I hope I'm wrong, but I do think there'll be a bit of a struggle on the horizon for Brighton. In this game, I think one of the safest bets of the weekend is Newcastle winning both teams to score. I think Brighton can score a goal. You look at the goal-scoring patterns in Newcastle games at home this season. They score on average 2 a game. They concede on average 1 a game. Screams 2-1, frankly, to Newcastle United. But I also wouldn't be surprised to see Newcastle pack on late goals here, something they've been specialist at in recent times. So look at the goals after the 75th minute market. But I picked out 3. Newcastle and both teams to score. I found it at 2.38. I think that's pretty safe. Newcastle and over 3.5 goals in the match brings you at 2.63. So slightly higher. So I'd go the other scoreline instead. A -2 handicap for Newcastle. That's 3-0, that's 4-0, that's 4-1. I quite like it. I think Newcastle will win a high-scoring game where both teams score. -2 is 4.33. That feels quite high to me. And of course, with Newcastle right now, your prop bet, Isak scores, Newcastle win. It's a bit low, but it's worth taking.
Well, Cornats is going also for Newcastle, Asian handicap -1. Munya the Dreamer, Newcastle over 2.5 goals. I think it's a fantastic season. They played the Champions League. They are going to play Europa League next season. It's not easy to play back-to-back European competitions, especially because the champions drag a lot of energy and they were in the worst group possible with Borussia Dortmund and PSG and AC Milan. Well, Newcastle beat Burnley. Burnley playing against Tottenham this weekend. They are going to be relegated probably when they play at White Hart Lane. Bad season for Burnley was the nail in the coffin, especially the home form has been terrible. Only 2 wins at Turf Moor, and the Spurs, Tom, they have to wake up to finish 5th the season. I guess it's a bit disappointing, no? Because we thought they could challenge for the top 4 to play Champions League next season, and the end of the season, you mentioned the last 10 games, they've been very poor.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's the last 10. Again, it's the last 10 games that are the most important part of the season. You need to deliver on your goals here. If you can go on a run of wins, 7 of 10, you'll achieve your objectives this season because a lot of teams are flagging. Others have late-stage European competition. The door was open for Tottenham Hotspur, and they have really flopped in the last few games. 4 defeats in a row. They have been tough games. You've got to say that. But they've lost every single one of them. Awful against Newcastle. All right at times against Arsenal, but threw it in the first half. Really weak against Chelsea and offered very little against Liverpool last weekend. Questions for Ange Postecoglou to answer. The good news for him is that Burnley are rubbish. Just complete rubbish. Utter tosh. Like last week, there was a moment when Sheffield United were beating Forest. And I was watching the Burnley game and you could hear the news filtering around. We might stay up here. We might stay up here. The crumble against Newcastle, who we've already established are good, was pitiful. They're defensively weak. Both goalkeepers are rubbish. Offensively poor. Couple of skillful players, the likes of Oddspedia, sure, good to watch, but they ain't going to keep you in the league. Didn't build a Premier League squad. The midfield is weak with Cullen and Brownhill, they're championship players. And I mean that respectfully, but they're just not Premier League players. And, you know, they ain't going to make it here. The only things to bet on here are how many goals Tottenham are going to score. For all the issues Tottenham have had, they are still one of the top scorers in the league. 69 goals this season is really, really impressive. For a team that sold Harry Kane in the summer. 36 goals scored at home. Puts them, I think, at the 5th or 6th highest scorers in the league at home. I think they've got a point to prove. I think they've got must win in their minds here, and they will win and win convincingly. So, Tottenham minus 2.5, 2.88. I think at least 3 goals for Tottenham here against the Burnley defence, one of the worst in the league. 74 goals conceded would usually be extraordinary. Unfortunately for Sheffield United, they've conceded 100, so it kind of makes it look like Burnley aren't too bad. So minus 2 handicap, 2.88. Both teams to score I quite like. Burnley do score a decent amount of goals. 39 is not too bad. And they have in recent games pipped one in against Man United. They pipped one against Newcastle. They got 4 against Sheffield United, 1 against Brighton, 1 against none against Everton. So that they can score, but you know, minus 2, 2.8, minus 3, 5. Both teams to score is 2. Pick what you want, Tottenham.
Spurs to bounce back for consecutive defeats for Postecoglou's men. Spurs to win and over 2.5 goals, 3-1 scoreline for Nena.
Yes, I see it.
Could be a good option. Yeah, Burnley, I watched the first 20 minutes and they were really pushing, but then, yeah, they crumbled completely against Newcastle. Next game, West Ham, Luton Town. We learned this week that Moyes was leaving. We knew it, but it was official. And Lopetegui is the one taking care. I saw you were happy about Lopetegui's arrival, you will tell me. And this could be a crucial game for Luton Town because if they lose Forest win, they will be championship team again.
Yeah, I won't bore you with all my thoughts on West Ham. We could be here all day, but I will say that I think Lopetegui is a really good appointment for them. I think the first 2 years, definitely, of his Sevilla team were fantastic. And I think what he did with Wolverhampton Wanderers was incredible. They were bottom of the league and useless, and he got them to 13th with a lot of big wins. I think you brought in a really competent manager who is, it's a different style to David Moyes, but it's not like revolutionary. You know, they're going to go from 30% possession to 50% possession. They're going to try and keep the ball more. You know, it's an improvement in the style and a really competent manager. And, you know, for any West Ham fans who think West Ham are too good for Julian Lopetegui, what's wrong with you? Like, no, this is a really good appointment, I think. It's not Ruben Amorim. I get that, right? But I think 7 or 8 years ago, we wouldn't have got him. So I think it's a really good appointment. Look, I think with West Ham currently, you could see it was over. You know, I said to you a few weeks ago, Chelsea were on the verge of walloping somebody, right? We missed it by 1 week. The following week was Everton. A couple of weeks later was West Ham. They create a lot of chances and players who started to score. We went with Palmer to score and Chelsea to win. I thought they'd win 3-0. 5-0, I think, flattered Chelsea a little bit. But look, we got the bet right because West Ham, they're gone. It's over for them. The Leverkusen game was it. And they were so good in that game. We spoke, I think, the following day. They were so good and they lost. And everyone's been depressed since. Everyone knows the manager's going. The club needs some renewal. The team needs some renewal. And that led to last week. But this week, they're big favourites for a reason. There'll be a huge thank you, David Moyes vibe around the place. David Moyes is going to go beloved, but everyone's happy he's leaving. You know, it's a weird state of affairs. Done an incredible job, but the football has gone stale. The team needs regeneration. He looks like all of his ideas have been used in the 4.5 years he's been there. That's so long in modern football for someone to have been there. So I think a celebration. I think the shackles have come off, which if they'd have done earlier in the season, maybe it would have got that contract renewal. I expect West Ham to win this and win quite convincingly. And in terms of Luton Town, I mean, look, great to see Adebayo back up front. You saw last week with his goal. If he could have been fit for longer, they would have stood more of a chance. If Amari Bell at centre-half could have been fit, if Ogbene could have been fit, if Kabore could have been fit more, you know, on and on I could go about how unlucky they've been. Tom Lockyer, in the end, they're going to go down. They've gone down fighting, but it looks to me, watching them, that they feel like it's over. The away form has been shocking. At home, they've been in games, but away from home, lost 2-1 against Wolves, 5-1 Man City, 2-0 Arsenal, 2-1 Luton, 4-3 Bournemouth. They find a way to lose. 45 goals conceded is over 2 per game. And I think even though West Ham have been so bad at home this season, West Ham are going to win. So what do you do? Well, -1 handicap brings you to double your money. So that's a really conservative bet. -1.5, 2-0 West Ham. Screams it to me. 2-0 West Ham, double your money, take it. I don't think Luton are going to score, even though West Ham have the 4th or 3rd now worst defence in the league. I would go West Ham win to 0. That brings you to 4.33. And look at some prop bets here. Look at Jarrod Bowen and West Ham win. Look at Kudus and West Ham win. You do that, you're going to make some money. But look at the handicap, narrow handicap, and they seem quite generous odds.
Can Nats no manager bounce? This is a new concept. We saw it with Barca, with Xavi Hernandez, or with Klopp, with Liverpool, but it's not working. Actually, or with Thomas Tuchel in Bayern Munich, the no manager bounce doesn't work. Perhaps in this case, but I don't think it's a good idea to tell your players you are leaving before the season is over, apart from West Ham, that the season is really over for them. Well, next game, Wolves Crystal Palace, nothing to play for. Again, in this game, but the odds to back Crystal Palace are beautiful. It's one of the best teams at this moment of the season. This is a manager bounce with Oliver Glasner, 4 wins and 1 draw. We saw the thrashing result, thrashing Man United 4-0. Wolves is totally opposite, only 1 win in the last 8. So everything points us to back Crystal Palace somehow, Tom.
Yeah, look, I mean, briefly on Wolverhampton Wanderers, Gary O'Neill, we've said it loads of times, really good job, nowhere near relegation trouble all season. He's got some really good performances at times out of Mateus Cunha and Pedro Neto, offensively, defensively. When Craig Dawson is out, they struggle, but Max Kilman, the captain, has come to the fore in recent weeks, even from corners. So good season for Wolves. I think they'll struggle again next year, but all in all, it's been pretty decent. As you mentioned, the current form is poor. But that's not surprising because the job was to get to 40 points. They've got 46. And quite rightly, people are thinking about their future. The club are thinking about their future. And it's natural, really, what's happened to Wolves. They aren't going to get in the top half. They probably are going to finish top of the bottom half. And that's a successful campaign. In terms of Crystal Palace, people understandably are going a bit wild about what Oliver Glasner has done. They've done this last year when they brought in Roy Hodgson and they went on an end-of-season run. The football is better, definitely, but they did this. I'm not sure as yet we know how successful Palace are going to be under Oliver Glasner. I think he's definitely a possession manager, definitely a bit, tiki-taka style. Keeps the ball, regenerates it, keep it. A bit more incision than that great team of 10, 15 years ago, but stylistically not too far away. But they've also had Eze and Elise back together. I think they've only started 6 or 7 games all season together, so that's really important. Jean-Philippe Mateta has hit a really rich vein of form. Next season's going to be really interesting. This summer's going to be really interesting. I don't think they start next season with Eze and Elise in the squad. And Palace have to sell. Everyone has to sell every now and then. And it looks like one of them, at least, Elise, I'd suggest, is being fattened up to sell to somebody. So, look, good time for Crystal Palace. Let them enjoy it. They should enjoy it. Great run of form. Back them to win here. Straight up win. Let's not mess around here. Straight up win at 2.56. Take it. Back it. That's worth a 20. That is worth €20 of anybody's money. I'll be doing that this weekend. And if you want to make more, put Elise in. put Eze in, pick one of them. Yeah, you're going to be above double your money. Take it.
AD was saying actually Olise to score might be worth a small bet. Good idea. Or Mateta anytime score could be.
Yeah, Mateta definitely.
Option. Well, the last game, late kickoff on Saturday, is Nottingham Forest Chelsea. Very good game because Forest, they have to win to be completely safe. And Chelsea, they are fighting to finish in European spots, only 2 points away from Newcastle. A couple of good performances finally for Chelsea, but it's been a poor season overall. I guess the Blues, we have Harry, our friend here, a Chelsea supporter. I guess they are not happy with Pochettino with the season. Tough game, this one. Tom, would you take these odds to back Chelsea 2.0?
Oh, I'm running away with Chelsea here. Absolutely running away with Chelsea here. And if our correspondent there is not happy with Chelsea, start getting happy. It's happening. It's happening. This is it. They're good. They're really good. Last few games been so impressive. So enjoy Chelsea right now. I mean, who knows what's going to happen next season when you've got to sell all your players because you can't financially cope because you're in the Conference League. Weird. But, really, really impressive. I think that, look, I'll start with Forest. The goals against Sheffield United last week were brilliant. Callum Hudson-Odoi had his 1 in 6 brilliant game. They've got a bunch of players who are great for 1, they're missing for 5. Alanga's in that group. Who's the other guy I'm thinking of? Gibbs White maybe better than that, 1 in 3. There's a whole bunch of players that they can do it and then disappear. They can do it and disappear. Had to win last week and did. Impressive character to come from behind, even against a poor team. But look, they're not going to win this. I just can't see them winning it. The home form has not been good enough in recent times. The home form across the season has not been good enough. They never win away. I think it's 1 win in 5 at home. That was against Fulham. Really poor in the draw against Wolverhampton Wanderers. Really poor in the draw against Crystal Palace. And as good as Chris Wood has been up front, I do think that they miss having Awoniyi up front instead. His physicality as opposed to Chris Wood, who had lots of moments last week, but couldn't quite get his feet in the right order and all this sort of stuff. So tough one for Forest. And look, Chelsea, they have been better at home than away. Absolutely. But I think Cole Palmer, how many times have we spoken about him? He's been so good. Again, he was brilliant last week. Nicholas Jackson started to score goals. He's still going to miss 4 in 5 chances, but he's getting 5 chances a game. So he's scoring regularly. Noni Madueke should get some confidence from last week. He's not done enough this season. He's basically Callum Hudson-Odoi. Defensively, Thiago Silva has been fit as he was last week. I just think there's lots of good elements around Chelsea. I think they are going to qualify for Europe, which in the macro of the season might not be a good achievement, but in the way it's gone at times, every chance of finishing 6th. Huge thing that would be if they're able to do it. So I think and should be happy. Sorry about that. With Chelsea being able to qualify for Europe. So what do we bet on here? I think you're looking at go for Chelsea and Palmer. That's what we won with last week. That's what we're going with again this week. That's a double your money bet. He is second top scorer in the Premier League, on for Golden Boots. Wild. So Palmer scores and Chelsea win. That brings you at 3. Very nice. -1 handicap. That's 2-0. That's 3-1 to Chelsea. That brings you at 3.5. Chelsea will score goals. Forest can't defend. I do think Forest might nick one. Asian handicap 3.5 for Chelsea feels really good. I think Chelsea are big favourites here. I'm surprised at just the Chelsea to win odds. That might be worth just taking on its own.
Well, Jackson, 13 goals in the season. At the end, is not a bad tally at all. Nottingham Forest, their last game is against Burnley. Let's see if they have to win that game to stay in the Premier League next week. Well, on Sunday, Man United, Arsenal. We have someone here, Almas, a Man United fan. He wants Zinedine Zidane for Man United next season. I guess it's going to be very difficult to convince Sisu to go to Man United because they are absolutely rubbish right now. What an end of the season. Conceded 4 to Palace, drew with Burnley, only 2 wins in the last 10 Premier League games. But we all remember how they got points from Liverpool. Perhaps they got points, or they get points from Arsenal, and they give the title to the neighbours, to Man City, Tom.
Yeah.
But I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. Look, I think there's a couple of things on Man United. Number one, I have sympathy for Erik ten Hag. I really do, because the defence he had to put out against Crystal Palace, a team in really good form, nowhere near good enough. If that was a defence of Luton Town, I'd back him to lose every game, every week. Casemiro's never been a centre-half. He's not moving around great at this point in his career, Casemiro. And that tackle on Elise for the first goal was just... that's like something I would do. Like, it's like a pub player. It was really bad. But he's not...
And the last goal. And the last goal as well.
He kept getting robbed on the ball, like he doesn't look sharp or any of that sort of stuff. But he's also not a centre-half. So we expect better, sure. But I don't know. No Maguire. There's a doubt about Johnny Evans for this one. There's no Lindelof. There's no Martinez. There's no Shaw. The entire first choice and second choice defence is out. And as much as it's fun to have a go at Erik ten Hag, and it is fun for everybody, right? You can't cope with that. No one can cope with that. So I do have some sympathy there. Plus, to lose Bruno Fernandes, who has just been... I mean, he's world-class. Bruno Fernandes is a world-class player. He is maybe the best in his position, certainly in English football, and I put him up there with most leagues around the world. He's fantastic. And you can see that in the way he's carried this team. Chance creation, goals scored. Yes, he seems like a bad person on the pitch, and I don't want to be his mate. I want him in my team. So to not have him and have a terrible defence against Palace, we predicted Palace win. The only thing we got wrong was the margin of the scoreline. If I knew Fernandes was missing when we recorded this show last week, I might have gone 3 or 4-0. So look, we don't know about Bruno as we record this. I think it's likely he'll come back, and that's really, really important for Manchester United. But I mean, look, this Arsenal team are too good. They are far, far too good. They have the title in their sights. They have 4 wins in a row away from home. They're the best team in the league this season. 12 victories, 3 defeats, 42 scored, 4 wins in the last 5. The only bets here are, number one, Man United at 7.5, I'll just say now, is really good. Arsenal historically have struggled at Old Trafford for a decade or more. So if you do have a gut feeling for Man United being the big spoiler, you don't get odds on Man U to win like that ever. So, if you have that as a gut, go with it. For me, no way. Arsenal went under 3.5. Forgive me, I really like here. That brings you nearly double your money. But Arsenal win to 0. I have won that bet. I've lost the stat now, but maybe like 15 times this season I've won this bet. They win without conceding so many times. Defensively, they are just so good, Arsenal. And 13 goals conceded away from home is extraordinary. When you look at Man City, 18 conceded. You look at who else has been good away from home? Liverpool away from home, 21 goals conceded. 13 goals conceded away from home is unbelievable. So Arsenal with a clean sheet, one of the safest bets you've had all season. Take it here. Look for the unders, but look for Arsenal to win. And again, looking for a goal scorer. We've looked at Isak this weekend. We looked at Palmer this weekend. I think you put Bukayo Saka in that group as well. Saka scores, Arsenal win. Again, double your money.
Ergo, Bruno Fernandes is also a world-class moaner and a mental dude.
Yeah.
Not going to be our friend, Bruno Fernandes, but he's a good player. And Jadon Sancho playing the Champions League final. What is going to think about it? Ten Hag, I'm sure someone will ask him this question. On Monday, we have Aston Villa, Liverpool. Very good game. Aston Villa focus in the conference semifinals. They are playing on Thursday with Olympiacos, but they can nail also their top 4 finish. What a season for Unai Emery. Don Unai Emery, what a manager. Liverpool with Salah finally scoring goals, and with Nunez, I saw him deleting his post, his pictures with the Liverpool t-shirt offered to Barcelona. A lot of rumors, I guess, around Liverpool now when the season is ending and the club's era is ending.
Yeah, I mean, people have gone to Liverpool to play for Jurgen Klopp, right? And if he is not there anymore, everyone is going to be considering their options. I saw Virgil van Dijk on the other side of things was saying he's going to stay this week, which is great for Liverpool. But there are others that are a bit like, well, why am I here? Like, what's the point of doing another 4 or 5 years? I don't like Arnie's slot. I wanted to play for Jurgen Klopp, so it's going to be an interesting summer. And everyone has to sell. everyone has to sell, even though no one thinks they do. They do. Even Liverpool have to sell to balance their books and make some money into each individual financial year. So Darwin Núñez, who's been good and bad in equal measure during his time at Liverpool, wouldn't be a bad one to sell. Look, we're recording this before the Olympiacos game, right? So I don't know what's happened with Villa, but I do know across the season they've been fantastic. I do know that after European games, they've actually delivered well this season. And there's two ways of looking at it. If they've lost to Olympiacos, they're going to want to bounce back immediately and confirm Champions League football. If they've beaten Olympiacos, it would be one of the great European comebacks in recent memory, almost Real Madrid-esque. Yeah, that's for you. And if that happens, a great feeling coming into this game. So either way, I fancy a good Villa here. I think that there have been issues defensively recently. Pau Torres, if fit, they're better defensively. As we saw in Europe recently, to have Clement Longley and Ezri Konsa at centre-half, not great. Emi Martinez, again, suffering with injury. If he is back, he makes such a big difference. I think Olsen's done well in goal, but he's not Emi Martinez, right? And he brings personality, leadership, and all that, as well as being a great goalkeeper. So there are question marks there. And in terms of Liverpool, I haven't really been impressed, I've got to say, in the last few weeks. They were poor against West Ham in a game they should have lost. We correctly got the draw there. They were poor against Everton, a game that was pretty much took them out the title race. Couldn't knock snow off a rope when they're finishing against Crystal Palace. That cost them. I went to Fulham, wasn't great. And even against Tottenham last week, they're 4-0 up, and it all sort of switches off for them. So they just feel like a team that are drifting, that need a bit of renewal. And Klopp being gone for so long has evidently had an impact on the players and the form. So what do you do here? I don't think I'm confident in any Liverpool result currently. They're so inconsistent from wins to losses to draws, right? So I'm going to leave Liverpool entirely. If you fancy Liverpool here, it's a great double chance bet for a draw and a Liverpool win. The odds aren't going to be great, but if you double it up with something else, you're going to make some money. Salah scored last week, but even Salah to score a Liverpool win doesn't feel safe. For me, 4.5 for Villa just to win. I don't know. That feels long. That feels long to me, considering at home this season, it's 12 wins in 18. It's 2 wins in the last 4, but only 1 loss in the last 5. I know they were terrible second half against Chelsea. I know they let in some rubbish goals against Brentford. But across the whole thing, Villa at home have been a pretty safe bet all season. Liverpool defensively weak. Aston Villa at home very strong. And unless there's a raft of injuries from Thursday, 4.5 for Villa to win. I'll take it all day long.
Well, double chance. Marco is going for Aston Villa double chance. This is a good idea, or goals in this game. Well, the best comeback in the European season was made by Olympiacos. They lost 1-4 at home, and then they came back away against Maccabi Tel Aviv to win 6-1. So it's very difficult to improve this, but perhaps Aston Villa can make it and play the conference final against Fiorentina. And as a bonus track, we have 3 midweek games, and I'm sure Tom has some tips for us. First one is Tottenham, Man City, 6.75 for Tottenham to win. If you are very confident, if you are an Arsenal fan cheering Tottenham for the very first time in your life, but you said it at the beginning, no? Man City to win.
Yeah, look, I'll pick out some winners from the midweek games because the individual bets will become clearer next week. But look, a couple of years ago, Tottenham had a great record against Man City. Why? Because they played Antonio Conte football. They were draw them in, hit them on the break. There is no better player in English football than Son Heung-min if you're going to sit deep and pounce. And Harry Kane slipping balls into Heung-min Son destroyed Man City multiple times. There was one game Kane was missing, and still Son destroyed Man City on the counter-attack. So if they're going to play like an Antonio Conte team, I might fancy Tottenham here because they have Son. They ain't gonna. Ange Postecoglou is going to try and play a high line against Manchester City, and they're going to get destroyed. They're going to get absolutely destroyed. And Postecoglou will talk about philosophy and whatnot, and that's all well and good. But if you're losing for 5 or 6, you're not winning games. Yeah, you gotta be a bit more pragmatic, Not totally, but a bit more. They've lost all the big games they've played recently. They're gonna lose this one. And Man City, I know they've got a big game at the weekend, but they can rotate heavily. Big gap between early Saturday and late Tuesday. If Haaland don't play, Alvarez can play. If De Bruyne don't play, Bernardo Silva can play. You get the vibe right now. I think City win, that's going to be no money. 1.48 is quite high for City, so I might just take that. But look at your handicaps. Maybe look at a minus 1.5. That's 2-0 to Man City. That may well bring you in at double your money by the time you put this on. But yeah, City win.
Well, Tottenham, they are the kryptonite of Guardiola lately, getting very good results against Man City. Tottenham fans would support Tottenham or Man City, you think, in this game?
I went to Tottenham Arsenal a couple of weeks ago, and every single one of the Tottenham fans on the way out were singing songs about Manchester City and how much they love them. So I think Tottenham would be delighted to lose this 3-0 and never speak of it again.
Exactly. So the whole ground would support Man City. And 2 more games. Brighton, Chelsea. We spoke about Brighton being on holiday, Chelsea being so good. Chelsea to win in the Amex Stadium, 2.2, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, the only doubt here about Chelsea, which goes to our earlier conversation about them, is that away from home, they've not been as good as they have been at home. But they've been really tough to beat. It's 4 draws in the last 5. Discounting the Nottingham Forest game, that's not happened at this point. So I do fancy Chelsea to get something. Brighton at home this season have had too many draws, 6 draws from 17. They've turned that around recently, but a couple of losses against Arsenal and Man City. Look, you lose those games, but they weren't great against Villa last time out. They weren't great against Nottingham Forest. They drew against Everton. It absolutely screams draw. This screams draw to me. So I would pick out the draw of the results in this game. 4 is lovely for a draw. I think both teams will score. If you are going to pick a winner, I would pick for Chelsea. And as ever with Chelsea right now, Chelsea-Palmer, Chelsea-Palmer, Chelsea-Palmer. If you fancy Chelsea, add Palmer. But for me, I'm taking the draw.
Well, we have good midweek games because the last one is Man United and Newcastle, important for the European battle, and the odds are very, very good for all 3 outcomes.
Yeah, all 3 outcomes feel very likely, don't they? Man United could play absolutely useless and win, which has been a story of their season. A draw with both teams scoring, 2-2. Absolutely, I can see it. But actually, I'm going to pick for a Newcastle win here because unless there is some sort of Lazarus-like recovery from the Man United defence, Callum Wilson, Alexander Isak, Harvey Barnes, all fit at the same time. Anthony Gordon, low-key, one of the best players in the Premier League this season. Bruno Guimaraes, creativity, Longstaff, energy. Newcastle have the beating of Manchester United in every single department. Maybe the goalkeeper, but I'm not sure Onana's that much better than Dubravka, let alone Nick Pope. So, I mean, he can't save on his near post. It's wild. So, look, take the Newcastle win here. I absolutely see the draw, but 2.57 for Newcastle to win is actually quite high. They've won 2 of the last 3 away from home, even though their overall away form has not been very good. If you like Man United, that's still pretty high for a Man United win. But for me, draw a Newcastle double, take it. Newcastle to win and Isak to score is a very safe bet right now. And I just cannot put my hard-earned money on Manchester United at this stage. I can't do it. I won't recommend it to you.
No, especially if Casemiro is also on the pitch, is not a good idea. Well, before we listen to your safe bet, your ACCA, remember that you can place your tips in our website, post your tips, and win some money with our tipster competition. We have yearly and we have monthly. Now it's not the start of the month anymore, but you can still play, you can still win. Here you have our website in the screen, and you just log in, you post your tip, and if you win, you keep getting points, and perhaps you can win money. You see now the rankings. So good luck to everyone who wants to participate for free, remember. Well, Tom, if we want to play some real money and you are sure lately, by the way, the international ACCAs are coming through, so tell us your safe bet.
Yeah, not only is it coming through, I'll just mention that last week I had a clean sweep on Saturday. Every single bet correct of the 6 games we had. I got one of Sunday right as well. It's coming in for me. Monday went right. I think that came in. The safe bet came in a rich vein of form right now. I'm basically Crystal Palace right now. Call me Paul Ezra. Look, my safe bet is obviously Manchester City. I can't let the team down here. Everyone else is getting their complicated bets right. And I'm throwing Man City win in too to bring it up just a little.
Keep it simple. Keep it simple. Man City to win. And the ACCA?
Yeah, last week my double came in, so I'm going treble again this week. Feeling brave. It's a double your money treble. Tottenham Hotspur to win their game. Chelsea at Forest adds the element of risk. You throw City in there as well. It brings you at 3.63. Chelsea are the risk, but I think it could be worth it.
Well, the risk and the money as well to put a little bit more money in your ACCA. Well, Tom, thank you for your tips. Thanks everyone for watching. Next week we have our last video of the season in the Premier League. I will be sad, Tom. We can still meet on Thursday this time. If you feel lonely, I'm here for you, okay? Bye-bye.